Hi Greedy 3Ders, I've got my Ghostbuster t-shirt on. That can mean only one thing. We're going to be making Peter Venkman from Ghostbusters. This is a wicked 3D file. If you want to see how I made him and how I painted him, stay tuned. So this is the model we're going to be making today. This is the Peter Venkman model from Wicked, and look at the detail in this model. They have done an absolutely fantastic job of him. Make sure you get a Wicked Patreon, and I'll put a link in the description where you can get this from. It is an awesome 3D printed file. I'm using some of this Conjure Sculpt resin, and I'm printing all of Peter on the Ultracraft Reflex RS using the PARP 10 settings, and he's printed beautifully. I'm going to get him off the build plate, to which he slipped off easy by the medium of a spatula. I'm going to clean him in the Ultracraft Reflex washing station. I'm going to dip him in a little bit of warm water. I'm going to get those supports off him. They just ooze off, and once he's been cured, I'm going to glue him together. I'm going to glue him together with a bit of super glue and a bit of activator, and then when I've got the legs and the arms all connected together, I'm going to sand him down. I'm going to get rid of all the support nubbins, and I'm going to make him look a little bit more respectable. Once he is all glued together, and that's just the body parts that I'm going to glue together. Now for the main parts of his uniform, for his Ghostbuster costume, I'm going to use skeleton bone, and I'm going to go straight over the top of Chaos Black. I'm going to get it pretty much all over, but you know what, if there's a little bit of black poking through in certain areas, I don't mind. It'll add to the ambience of the model. So once I've covered him completely, I'm going to go down a shade to some of this Agrax Earth shade. I'm working from the bottom. I'm just going to hit some of the shadowed areas of his uniform and in the little indentations and creases and folds, just to give them a little bit more depth. I don't want to get too mad, but as a Ghostbuster, I'm going to get a little bit dirty. So that's what I'm doing with the Agrax Earth shade. Time to get the brushes out now and do a little bit of washing and a little bit of painting. I'll refer you back to my skin tone tutorial video. This is the techniques that I'm going to use on old Venkman's face, and once that's all been done and following exactly the same steps as in that video, here we can see the skin tones for Mr. Peter Venkman are now on. Let's do the hair and the eyes. And before too long, Mr. Venkman has been brought to life with some Martian brown hair. You've seen me do eyes a number of times, so I'm not going to go over the detail here. If you want me to do an eyes video, then drop me a little message down in the item description below, and I'll do a video on how I did the eyes. Now, what I'm going to do for the rest of him, because there's not too much to do to his uniform, I'm just going to lighten up his belt using a little bit of a cream colour, and once that's done and that's all over there, you can see it's just got a little bit of a change in contrast to the rest of it. I'm taking some necrotic flesh and I'm going to mix it with some orc skin to get me a kind of canvassy green, and with that green I'm going to almost dry brush it right the way across all of the straps on his uniform. Again, there's not too much colour variation in his uniform, but I definitely want the green straps to be sticking out, and that's what he looks like when the strappage is all done. And then I'm going to move on to just tidying up the little bits and any little bits that I've missed to get it looking good. Now, some stone golem next, and I'm just going to do his elbow pads with that. We're going to do a bit more work on the elbow pads, but again, I just want them to stand out a little bit from the rest of his uniform. Taking out some black now, I'm going to paint his t-shirt black to give quite a stark contrast to when I pop his head on, and also his Venkman badge is black with some red lettering, which we will do later, but let's get that base colour of black on there. I'm also going to use the black to paint the metallic work on the back behind his proton pack, and then I'm going to dry brush that with silver to make it look metallic. And while I'm talking about dry brushing with a bit of silver, his actual proton gun now is going to get a blast all over. I'm going to age that gun, I'm going to batter that gun, I'm going to make that gun look like it's seen a few spectres, ghouls and spooks in his battle to save the city. So give that a dry brush using a typical dry brush technique. And once I've done that, exactly the same silver on his proton pack. I'm going to go over the whole thing. This proton pack is beautiful. It's printed wonderfully. The detail that Wicked has put into it is absolutely incredible. So we're going to add a little bit of colour into it, but that base has got to be black and some dry brushed silver. Once I've done that, I'm going to take a nice stark red and I'm going to give it a few coats over of the wires because I want those wires to stick out. I'm not going to do a huge amount of work on the proton pack because it doesn't need it, but I do want it to look like there's some wireage in there, there's some different colours in there, there's some warning labels in there, and I want that to stand out from the rest of it. So giving it a coat across of the red, I've just took a reference picture from old Tinterweb and I'm following that as best I can with all the different colours that I see in said photograph. It's a bit of blue going in to contrast the red, a little bit of a cream colour, a little bit of silver, a little bit of blue, a little bit of this and that, and there we go. That's the final proton pack all painted up. I think you'll agree it looks really, really lovely. Didn't take too long to do. Taking some waste wash now, any old brown wash will do, and I'm just going to go over his uniform in certain areas to make him look a bit aged and a little bit worn and battered before a dry brush back across with some skeleton bone to brighten up the outer areas of that uniform and bring it back to life. Doing his Ghostbuster badge, the whole thing is going to get a base layer of white before we go back over it with that stark red colour in certain areas. Now there is some black in there as well, which I'll come back to later, but the white and black is on there, and this stuff is absolutely marvellous. This is panel liner, and I've gone over quite a few places with the panel liner because it needs it. It needs a little bit of definition, it needs a little bit of character, and this stuff is just fantastic to bring your models to absolute life. Just look at the way it falls into the background of that belt and adds character to that belt. It adds age to it, it adds definition to it. It's wonderful stuff. If you haven't got any, get hold of some. Watch. It's like magic, isn't it? It's just osmotizes or diffuses across into the little nooks and crannies of whatever it touches, and it is absolutely fantastic for your model making. Get hold of some now. I'm going to also use some of that on his Ghostbuster emblem, and this is what I said about the black. Just look at the way it attracts itself all around the edges, and the actual Ghostbuster emblem has got some black around the edges. Now for the base, I've just used some stone golem on a dry brush technique, and I'm going to go across the whole of the base with that before the same thing all across the edge. I like simple-ish bases. I don't want to do too much work to the base because it will detract from the model, but I am going to take some streaking grime from AK, and I'm just going to go around the floor to make the floor look a little bit aged and worn and make it look like it's been a bit used. I'm not sure which scene in the movie this is from. I suspect it's just before he has a go at Mr. Stay Puft, so we're just going to make this look like a bit of a battered old, I think it was in New York, but who knows. But here's the final version. Hope you like it. Thanks for watching Greedy 3Ds. What did you think of Peter Venkman? Did you like it? Didn't you like it? Would you have done anything any different? I'm always interested to hear what you think. If you like what you see today, please subscribe to the channel. It's down here somewhere, a little button, just click it, take you a second and you have subscribed and you can see everything else that we do going forward. If you want to join the Patreon, all the details will be down below. If you want to get hold of this file, if you want to get hold of the printer I printed it on, all the information you need will be in the item description. Hope you liked it. We're going to do a few more painting videos coming forward. See you real soon. Thank you for watching.